let's start off with your sports background.
Okay. I don't really have a sports background. I've obviously been thinking about these questions, and I definitely didn't do any sport when I was a kid. We moved around a lot, and I wasn't a very confident kid. I have two sisters who are both very bookish and not into sport, so we just didn't really do sport.
Nothing at school?
Maybe netball, a little bit of netball, but I was one of those kids that tried something and then just quickly lost interest. And I did a little bit of like middle distance running maybe, but the only reason I was probably good at that was because there was like 6 girls in my class, and so there was much competition. So I just never had that drive. Like I just didn't really care enough about it. And looking back, I wish like my life would have been so much different if I'd had been engaged in sport and done something productive with my time. And that's one of my biggest regrets, was that I never got into it. So yeah, and then once I left school, I just started like a lot of unhealthy habits that wasn't really conducive to sport. And just, I don't know.
You must have done running, right? You must have done some sort of running.
I honestly don't, like maybe every once in a while I'd go for like a run and then think, I'd earned that, late night 3 a.m. pizza run or something. But honestly, I don't remember doing anything consistently. Not until probably about 5 or 6 years, maybe 6 years ago, when I decided it was more to get healthy. And like I quit smoking and I quit working at the pub, and I think I started masters, and I was self-conscious of, something like cigarette smoke and whatever. Thought I better get my life together. So that's when I joined the gym, and I guess just started that way, and then just built it up. And then when I was living in Dalby a few years ago, that's when I sort of joined a CrossFit gym. And one thing I have always done, and I think that's why I did okay maybe in like middle distance and a few cross-country events back in the day, is that I can push myself till no one else can. So I've always been able to, just go as hard as I can for as long as I can. And I used to joke that there was no point going to the gym unless you felt like you were going to vomit. Like that was the whole point. So I've always been able to push myself, and so I did pretty well with the CrossFit stuff and the gym stuff, and got fit and became addicted to it. And I think that anyone who's gone from being unhealthy to healthy knows that feeling of getting addicted to that feeling of exercise. And I did. I got addicted to it, and I just became habit. And so, all of a sudden I was going from, doing nothing and not much to going to the gym 6 days a week and just getting fit.
And so how did you get into the triathlon then?
Because, and I've told this story to a few people, so sorry if you've already heard this, but I was going to the gym at Toombul, and I just moved back to Brisbane. I needed something to do. It was such a great community back in Dalby in terms of the gym. Like, that was your second family. And I wanted that here, but I just couldn't find the equivalent sort of thing that worked with my timing and everything. So, like, I think I've told some people, like, I went to the sign-on day for the Zilmere AFL ladies team, and was thinking about a few different things. And then I saw you guys running around Toombul one morning, and just Googled Toombul running, and Pursue came up. And there was the beginners program at the start of last year. And at that stage, it was just before Christmas holidays, so it must have been like November, like a couple of years ago, November. And my partner at the time was going to overseas for like a 6-week boy trip. And so I would be doing nothing for 2 months. So I thought, right, like, I'm going to do this. And signed on to the beginners program that was to start in February. And between, December and January, I went to Chermside Pool pretty much every day and swam like in a lane for the first time ever, and just watched as many YouTube clips about swimming and tried to teach myself how to swim, and got to the point where I could rock up on that first day of the beginners program and not feel too...
So you did that before the beginners program?
Yeah, right. Definitely.
Jeez.
It was awful. But it was a challenge. It was something that I wanted to do. And you get to see a lot of gains at that beginning period, so that motivates you. And then, then it's a beginner's program.
So who was in that beginner's class?
Kathy, Lindsay.
James
Courtney wasn't part of that.
Wasn't he?
No. Oh, I'm going to forget some people and it's going to be really bad. But I can remember Kathy and I remember Lindsay. Lindsay's sister and a couple of others that I've seen around the traps. But yeah.
That's right. But when you started, you must have known that you were a good runner.
Yeah,
so
I knew I could run.
The first day you turned up in the beginners course in running, I remember it clearly.
I knew I could run, but honestly, those gains that I've made have only been made because of the competitiveness of it. So I've never run competitively, and it wasn't until I started running against people and not just the treadmill that I've really noticed improvement. Yeah. So I've always known that I can run.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you enjoy the training or the racing?
The training. I hate the race.
You don't like the race at all?
After the race, I like the race, but I hate the lead up to the race.
Right. Okay. Well, that's a good step into preparing for the race. So mentally, is there anything that you do to get yourself ready for the racing?
Look, I know that you talked about, the visualization stuff and everything, and I don't do that, and I probably should. But one thing I did do at Sunshine Coast, because my biggest anxiety is around the organisation. So I lose everything. I'm the least organised person there is. So the idea of having to have everything organised and ready to go at a certain time really just, freaks me out. I have to make a list of what I need to take to work every day, let alone have stuff in transition. And that's what stresses me out the most. So what I did before the Sunshine Coast race the other day was that night I sat down and I visualized every element of the race and sort of wrote down what I would need and what I'd be doing at that stage. So standing at the swim, I'd have my goggles, I'd have my no-dos, I'd have this and I'd have that on me. And then once I got out of the swim, I'd be walking to transition, and in transition, that's when I swapped that for that and that for that. Yep, I've got that. Just having it all written down so that stress was taken away. And that kind of helped in terms of me thinking, right, I'm not going to forget anything. Everything's there.
So you've got a psychology background.
Yeah.
You don't use anything that you've learnt in that? You don't think that anything subconsciously?
I'm very aware. I know all of my insecurities about racing and all of my hang-ups and whatever. I'm very aware of where they come from and why I have them. But whether I do what I should do about them is a different story.
Yeah. Okay, so you mentioned it before about pushing yourself. Now, you push yourself harder than I've seen anyone to be able to do. Where do you think that comes from?
Okay, so I thought about this answer, and then there's three. One is impatience. Impatience? I don't have a lot of patience. And so I kind of think here, if you're not making it worth your while, what's the point? I'm spending an hour and a half, 2 hours on this and getting bang for my buck. Because then later on I'll regret it and think what a waste of time. So I think there's that. The second thing is competitiveness. I think I'm competitive, and not in a way I sit there at night and think about all you guys that I want to, take down. But
who does that?
On the day, if we're at the crit track, I need to keep up with Andrew. If I don't keep up with Andrew, I get anxious about it. And the same with the run. I need to keep up, and you hear Mark's footsteps behind you and you've got to go. So there's this constant sense of keeping up and maintaining a certain performance, and that's what drives me. It's kind of this weird fear of, I don't know what, not doing well, I guess. And then the last thing is, I think, it does come down to, I guess when, like I said before, if you come from a place where you're unhealthy and then you become healthy, you can become a little bit obsessive about it. And I think my training is sometimes a little bit obsessive in that way.
Do you prefer to chase someone down or be out the front?
Yeah, I don't know. I've thought about this. I think I prefer to be at the front, and then, I think I prefer to be at the front.
Not look behind? Just listen out for the footsteps?
Just listen out for the footsteps. Those pitter-patter of Mark Rhodes' feet.
In the races that you've done, I don't know how many races you've done, but you've nearly been a podium in every single one?
The only one was Gundy. I was fourth.
That's a terrible result. Do you know where you are in the race? Compared to the
no.
other people? You don't?
No. I have a little bit of no. Because I never know where I've come out of the swim. So,
right.
And thinking about it like I have lately about how long it takes to catch up minutes in a race. If I'm behind 7 minutes in the swim, I might not catch that person. This is what happened. So Kate, the girl that came third, this is probably boring, but Kate, the girl that came third at Sunshine Coast, she beat me by, I don't know, it's 7 or 8 minutes in the swim. I passed her probably with 4K to go of the run.
Right. And
she had I was a bit faster than her on the bike, but she was she held her on the bike too.
So it took you that long to get up to her from 8 minutes.
Yeah.
Starting.
Yeah. So that's how I kind of keep track.
Do you think you'd like to know? If you were racing, do you think you'd like to know where you are?
No.
You think that?
No, because it gives me something to think about. And I think if I knew that she was still 5 minutes ahead of me, I'd be too stressed out about, that means I've got to run this pace at this time, blah, blah, blah. And whereas if I'm kind of just running, in the back of my mind thinking, I've got to chase. I know I'm chasing. I just know I am. No. So I'd rather just know I'm chasing, not by how much though.
Do you zone out in a race? Or what do you think about?
In the swim, I just think about like how awful it is, and that's how I just think the whole time I'm thinking this is so it's so negative. The swim is just complete negativity, which I've got to work on. And where am I? Who's next to me? Where's the boy? What's going on? Can I see? I can't see. How far do I have to go? How long are we going for? Just this whole commentary. The bike, I feel really happy on, and I've surprised myself because I'm never really that positive on the crit track or on a Sunday ride. Like I'm usually the whole time, I'm going too hard. It's too hard. I'm never going to be able to do this in a race. It's quite negative in training. But in the races, I felt great and it just feels so good to be going hard and feeling good going hard. And so often I'm just thinking, get to that next person in front of me, get to that next person in front of me. And then think, oh my God, I'm going too hard, what's going to happen, blah, blah, blah. But for the most part, I'm pretty positive. The run, I'm getting better at getting a little bit in the zone, but for the most part, it is what time am I doing? How long do I have to go? Who's in front of me? How do I feel? Am I going to be able to maintain this? What's going to happen if I don't? If I get to that point, what will I do? Like just this constant commentary and sort of self-coaching the whole time.
Not too negative?
No. Only when it's... No. And, Sunshine Coast wasn't. I felt good, Sunshine Coast. Harvey Bay at that time was it's, are you going to quit? What happens if you quit? What excuse can I make up that I had to quit for some reason? Like it just depends on how you feel on the day.
Yeah. So since you've only just been doing it for 18 months?
Yeah.
Give or take.
February, last year.
What's the one thing that you have improved that surprised you?
The bike.
That you've been really happy about?
The bike, because I didn't really know how to, everyone knows how to ride a bike, but not properly. And I'm really happy that that's actually I was stronger on the bike relative to everyone else than the run at the Sunshine Coast. So I'm happy that that's actually come quite easily for me to be strong on the bike. Yeah.
You're really strong right to the end of the bike as well.
Yeah, I know. I don't fade.
No.
And I think that's fitness. And I'm not saying that's a big note myself, but I think that's just because I had those solid 3 or 4 years of building up my fitness. I can sustain it, I guess. It'll be interesting to see with the full Ironman whether I can do that then, but I think I'm okay to keep my heart rate at a certain level the whole time.
And it obviously hasn't negatively affected your run.
Yeah, I know.
You did a fast run split the other day.
Yeah, no, I know. And, Gundy was so hard mentally, that run. It was awful.
Hot.
Oh, no, just bombed. I started out doing 4:15s and then ended up doing 5s and so I guess it might, I don't know if it affects the ride affects my own.
So, like we said, you'll only be doing it for about 18 months.
Yeah.
How do you think this is going to play out? What's next? What's the big goal? I know you got the Ironman coming up, but how do you think your triathlon career is going to play out? I know it sounds funny, but you've obviously got a little bit of talent.
Yeah.
We've just talked about how you've only ever podiumed except for one race.
Yeah. I don't know.
And bonking for you was 5-minute Ks, which was terribly slow.
Yeah. Nearly, gun to the head. It was it was not the fact I was going 5-minute Ks, but just mentally it was really hard. I think that people don't like... after the Sunshine Coast, a few guys said to me, you look like it's so easy. But it's like, I'm in a world of pain. Yeah. Like, I'm in a world of hurt. And I think, and I said this to Pete this morning, for some reason, I can't remember why, but that my tolerance for pain and my tolerance for discomfort is high. And I think that's what's helped as well. Like, my heart rate's increasing and I feel like collapsing. I'm not going to stop. I just won't stop. So I think that's what's kind of helped me as well. Someone could just have just as much talent as me on the bike or riding or running, but they might just stop earlier or slow down earlier than I do.
Won't be able to push through.
Yeah. So I don't know what my overall goal is. Next year, the Ironman, and I know this is really boring, but I would really like just not to get injured because my body is really sore at the moment. Yeah.
You haven't had any injuries so far?
No,
nothing major?
No, just tightness and stuff.
You haven't had any injuries previous, like from CrossFit or anything like that? No. So after the Ironman, you don't know? Don't know. Just see what happens. Triathlon specific, what's the best advice you've been given so far that you've been able to put into action that you've done? What's helped you out?
Well, I went to an RPM class at the gym a couple of days ago, and the instructor, he was just full of motivational quotes. But one thing he did keep saying over and over again, which stuck with me, because I'm not really one for motivational speakers. I don't really do that, so I don't really have anyone that I've really thought about. But when I saw this question, I thought, that RPM guy, he said something about the change only comes when you're uncomfortable, and I purely believe that. Like, unless you're uncomfortable, you've got to be uncomfortable for a bit until that becomes comfortable, and then you move to the next level, and that becomes uncomfortable, and then you wait till that becomes comfortable, and then you keep moving up. That's how I see it. And the other bit of advice that has stayed with me was my friend Anne, who was a competitive swimmer when she was younger, and I was talking to her about the Sunshine Coast. I think I told you. And she said, I was saying how I was really get myself worked up about it. And she said, when she was swimming, when you race in a pool, if you come second or whatever, that's on you. Like, there's no other variables that have contributed to that. It's whoever touches the wall first, and if you haven't, you were too slow. But she said when she changed to do competitive surf lifesaving, which she does now, there are so many variables that can influence that race. The wave that comes in a bit too short, someone's paddle comes out and knocks you down. So many different things that can affect your performance that when you finish and you're not happy with it, you can't be too self-critical. You can't be too down on yourself. You can't take it too personally because of all these other different things. And that has really helped me to realize that, at the end of a race, if I don't do as well as I thought I was going to do, that doesn't say anything about my ability or how hard I've trained or, me as a person or whatever. It just means that on the day, a couple of things didn't line up. And there are so many things in triathlon that need to line up exactly for it to be a good race that I guess the pressure then, I no longer felt the pressure on myself. And I realised that there were other things at play, which helped.
You don't set goals before a race?
Only in terms of, I have a vague idea of what I want to do in terms of time, not time overall, like I guess I could work that out, but in terms of, like on the bike, what I want to hold, and on the run, what I want to hold.
And you don't tell people those?
I don't, because again, it comes down to if I don't do that, then I feel like a goober, like, it just, so, but then that comes back to what Anne said, like, well, if you don't hold that, who cares? Like, it just meant that something didn't happen, your nutrition wasn't right, whatever, like, but it just comes down to my insecurities, I guess.
Is there anything else you want to add? I know you've had these questions for a couple of days, but
one thing I did think of that's funny is I think one of your questions was around why I kept going with triathlon or something around that. Anyway, like when I started triathlon and why I decided to do it. And obviously, you know, everyone knows that feeling when you finish the race and it feels great. And when I finished Raby Bay, the Enticer, at the end of the beginners program, you know, you feel great and whatever. And Reese was there and he came over to me and he was like, you can make it, you know? And at this stage, like, I still had flat pedals and I had no idea what I was doing. And I was like, yeah, maybe I can make it. And I had no clue what that meant or even that there was such a thing, you know, as an Ironman or whatever. But it's funny how little comments like that have such a big influence over you.
Yeah.
And I think that's what struck me the most about this triathlon stuff is the positivity and the way that people are towards each other in bringing everybody up. Like, that's the vibe that keeps you coming back. My friends are very cynical and sarcastic, and my family, we don't really do positive sort of stuff. So it's kind of been nice to be around this environment of, you know, feeling good and everyone being so happy for each other. So yeah, that was my answer to that question which you didn't ask.
So Reese is to blame. That's cool.
Yeah, it's funny.
Reese will be happy with that.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Is that it?
I think so.
Cool.
So